Welcome to Imagine Your Life with Jenny Lynn. I'm so excited to welcome you this morning. We are going to be discussing today, you get what you picture. We don't get what we want. We get what we picture and we get what we're programmed. So today we're going to be discussing the power of the subconscious mind to create what we do want in our lives. And this piggybacks on subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is imagined. So what we imagine eventually becomes real. Well, how does that happen? Well, it happens because our subconscious mind grabs a hold of a picture and it holds that picture in our subconscious. And then we go to work and we start to work and we create and then we manifest and then we bring about what we pictured. Now, if you don't do anything with this and you don't even know these concepts, it's still working either for or against you. As a child, is there ever something that you really, really wanted and you thought about it all the time? Oh, all the time you thought about it and you wanted that. And then it happened. Now, has that happened on the negative? Of course, happens on the negative just because we're human. And if we do nothing, our body, our brain is always in inertia and it's always going to go to the negative. How we create what we do want in our life is by capturing these ideas and putting them into action, creating the picture in your mind, feeding our mind what we do want. And then we can create what we do want instead of what we don't want. Now, I'm going to be referencing a book today. It's one of my favorites. It was written in the 1970s, 80s, I guess. And it's called The Magic of Thinking Big. The Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. David Schwartz. And I love it how my virtual background things just disappear in front of me. Very mystical. Kind of like our subconscious mind. Oh, anyway, I digress. But I want to talk about the magic of thinking big. This book by Dr. David J. Schwartz, it was written years ago, and it is still remains one of the top bestsellers. And he talks about the power of words and association and how we master and take control, and our mind only thinks in pictures. And so let's give it big pictures. And how does that happen? Well, it's through word association. And I want to read you a quote directly from the book, Magic of Thinking Big. Look at things not as they are, but as they can be. Visualization adds value to everything. A big thinker always visualizes what can be done in the future. He isn't stuck with the present. Now, isn't that interesting? The words we use matter. Every word we use matters because the subconscious mind is always listening. Remember, it only says yes. It only thinks for in safety. It's always looking for what is safe, what is comfortable. And so we get to feed our mind and create a new comfort zone of safety, playing on the one string we have, which is that the subconscious mind only says yes and agrees with whatever we think, whatever we speak. And so we can feed our mind these word pictures of what we do want, and even in physical pictures, because we get what we picture. We don't get what we want. We get what we picture. I do a lot with weight loss and hypnosis. And when I can get that individual to see themselves in their mind as the happy, healthy, positive, new, sober, happy, ideal weight, physically fit them, and we create this picture of themselves. We create a physical picture of what they do want to look like at their ideal weight. And there's lots of different ways to do that now that are really fun. And then they get to look at that picture every time that they look in the mirror. So, mirror neurons is a real thing. Did you know that we have these neurons in our brain that are called mirror neurons because they get activated when we see other people doing things, and that neuron comes on and it captures the information and says, I am going to mirror that person. Do you ever sit next to somebody and you find yourself that pretty soon you kind of are acting like them? Begin to mirror each other. Well, we can accelerate that process through doing mirror work, having pictures in front of us of what we do want, and then we can activate more strongly those mirror neurons, which can't tell the difference between what is real and what is imagined. So then those mirror neurons go to work to mirror what we do want because we set the standard for what we do want. Get rid of the old. Remove the old story. We get what we focus on, and we get to create what we do want in our lives. So today we're going to be talking about word association, the magic of thinking big. We're going to share a couple of stories of how manifestation works and show you in this from my own personal life. There's many, many, many experiences. And then we'll briefly talk on dreams and Einstein and weight loss and vision boards and how to create a vision board. There's lots of information on creating vision boards, and there isn't a wrong way to do it. Isn't that the best thing? You take a little picture and you put it on the fridge. There's your vision board. Or you can get more profound and take lots of pictures and words and messages and create on a poster board. Make it as big as you want or as little as you want. I've taken a whole wall in my bedroom at one time and divided it up into six, I think there were 9 squares. And in each square had different pictures and words of what I wanted in the different areas of my life. Well, by the time that we moved from that house, I had created almost every single thing on that picture board in my bathroom that I looked at every day and I would dream about and think about. And then situations came and were able to bring about and make that happen. I wanted to take my family on a cruise and I didn't really want to pay for it. I wanted it to be something that we could really would afford, but we could really have a great time. I had 6 kids, and when you're traveling with a young family and you think, how are we going to make this work? I didn't know when I put those pictures up. I didn't have the funds. I didn't have an avenue to create this cruise experience that I wanted with my family and my kids. Well, put the pictures up on the board, started thinking about it, and it wasn't long that I had an opportunity to win a cruise. And I won a free cruise for my family, for my husband and I and our 6 kids. And we had a marvelous, we had such a fun time. Flew out of didn't fly. We boarded the ship in California, LA, went to Catalina Island, Cabos, Puerto St. Lucas. There are lots of fun places. Anyway, but how did that happen? It started with a picture that I put up in my bathroom and looked at and began to activate the mirror neurons within me. Now, an example Another example, when I was in college, I guess I was in just graduated from high school, and I was with a group of friends, and I'd heard about Jerusalem. I knew that you could go there. I'm very Christian. I was raised Christian. I knew the stories of Jesus. I go to Bible school, Sunday school, and I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I believe in Christ. And I wanted to go to Jerusalem. Well, I didn't even think that was a possibility. I was 18 years old. How does that happen? I don't know. And then I heard about some friends that my college up at Utah State University, Logan, Utah, and there was a flyer on the board that said, um, students come to the Jerusalem BYU Jerusalem Center and live and work and study in Jerusalem. And that ignited a fire within me. And these thoughts came and I thought, I really want to do that. How could I do this? And as soon as you start asking the questions, how, then the brain goes to work to help you figure out how are you going to make this work? Well, I recruited a friend and we decided that, you know what, we can do this. We're both working, we're going to school, we don't have a lot of cash, but we can start working things out and we can make this work. Of course we can go. So we started talking to our parents, working harder, getting the funds together. And at that time, this was 35 years ago, the total cost on this 4-month trip to Jerusalem was like $3,000. That's it, $3,000. By today's standard, that doesn't seem like very much. But back then, it was a lot of money, and I didn't have it. And I had 6 months before I would have to come up and pay my $6,000 so that I could go and be a student in Jerusalem. I started dreaming about it at night. I started thinking about it. I started putting pictures of my most famous picture that I really loved in Jerusalem, and that was in at the Garden Tomb. And it's And I want to go and sit in the garden. I want to sit next to the garden tomb. I want to walk where Jesus walked. And I started thinking about these things, talking about these things. And my friend and I came up with more ideas and we started working harder. I took a second job and I was still working. We just became very, very focused. And then I remember I didn't ask my parents for money. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. And I grew up with, if I needed money, my mother would say, well, go to work. Here's a job you can do. You need to go do this and this and this. So I was always used to programmed. I was programmed to work for my money. Imagine that. Well, the self-esteem that comes from that for a child is amazing and incredible and gives you the idea and the belief that you can do anything you put your mind to. Well, that's the kind of child I was. And I was going to go to Jerusalem. I was going to go study at the BYU Jerusalem Center. And I remember I was about $500 short in having to turn in this money. And my mom came to me one morning as I was getting ready for school and she said, Jenny Lynn, your father and I have been talking. See, it makes me cry even now. And we've watched you working really hard, and we know that you want to go to Jerusalem, and we want to help you make that happen. How much money do you need to finish to get to your goal? How close are you? I said, Mom, I just need 500 more. I just need 500 more dollars. That's it. And I can turn the money in tomorrow. And she said, here's $500. And she had written out a check for $500 before our conversation even. Maybe I had said something about it. I don't know. I was always talking about it. And then my parents came through and helped me, which that was an amazing blessing. And I was so very, very grateful for that. And I found myself a month later in Jerusalem, sitting in the exact spot that I had pictured on my wall. And there I was. And I was there. And I had an amazing experience. Those 4 months being in Jerusalem changed my life forever. And one of the biggest changes that happened was that is where I met my husband. And we were studying in the same program. And now we've been married for 35 years, have 6 children, and 2 beautiful grandchildren, and more on the way. So excited about that. Where did it start? Started with a picture, with a thought, and then putting all that together. And and I didn't know that I was going to get my husband out of it. But talk about hypnotic suggestions, because as I'm preparing to leave, and here's my father, really big, strong man, and he gives me a hug. Oh my goodness. He gives me a hug as I'm leaving to get on the airport to fly to Jerusalem, and here I am. I'm just this little girl, 19 years old, so naive in the world, and he says, "Whatever you do, do not bring home a husband." And I laughed and said, "Dad, that's the craziest thing ever." And and yeah, that's where I met my husband. He planted the seed, and maybe that's what he was doing by design. Well, it worked, and it has led to a very fabulous life. So goals. What is your goal? What do you want? Write it down. Write down your goal and then get pictures. See yourself having accomplished that goal. With weight loss, we say, okay, I'm going to be my ideal weight of 145 pounds. And we put up pictures of yourself, but what you will look like at 145 pounds. And then we start talking about how good it's going to feel. Oh, when you can run up and down the stairs, when you can breathe at night as you sleep, as you feel healthy and strong, and you're going to the gym and you're working out and everything that you're doing to support this picture in your mind. And as soon as you start to feel like, wow, wow, I'm 145 pounds. And what if nothing on the outside has even changed yet? Well, when it's changing inside, that is the first step. You change the inside, how you feel, how you think about yourself, and you do that through your words, how you speak to yourself. Then, guess what? You just automatically start making better choices. And it's not long before your body frame starts to match what is inside your mind, because you get what you picture in life. Now, most recently, I have another story. I love horses, and I've grown up with horses. I haven't always had horses. Been periods of my life, right? Horses are big animals and not easy to care for. But I married a husband with his father was a rancher, and we had lots of land. My father-in-law had lots of land in a place called Randolph, Utah, coldest place on earth. Hope you never have to visit there. Little small town, but a ranch and community. And had horses there, and so as we were raising our family, and when he needed a place for the horses, is that to retire the horses from the ranch, a soft place for them to land was in Brigham City, Utah, on our space that was actually my father-in-law's. They had created for a side. They had cows and horses, and so these horses would come and live. And then I became the caretaker of the horses. Moral of this story is I've always had horses or been around horses, and I love horses. They're a big, huge part of my teenage years. Was my horse that I had that I would go ride in the hills whenever, almost weekly, at least a couple times a week. Well, then you get married, then you start having kids, and then we didn't have horses for a while, and then we started to get these horses again. Well, fast forward, okay, most recently, here's my story. I had to downsize my herd, and then I got a few more horses, and then less, and then I had my horse that I've ridden for 15 years. Now, I've been very blessed with MS since 2015. So multiple sclerosis. One of my number one therapies with multiple sclerosis was equine therapy. I got myself back out working with my horses, riding, just walking on the horse. I didn't have the strength when I started in 2015 to do more than just to sit on the horse and walk. But the nervous system of a horse, the hip structure of a horse matches and mirrors a person's, the human's, or the human body. And so any time that I spent on the horse, it was retraining, repatterning my nervous system of my body. And that is how I taught myself to learn to walk again. I also had some physical therapy, but I attune it to the time that I spent sitting on the back of my horse, just walking. Now, by this time, my horse, her name was Patches, and she was very old, and she just loved me, and she was safe, and she was the perfect horse for me. Well, then she died, she passed away, and I wanted a new horse that I could ride. And I was trying to train a horse, which I was having a very difficult time getting this horse to be my safe horse. He was a cutting horse, he was a fast horse, and he had some PTSD problems. So I don't know what I was thinking. But a year ago, we were out going on a trail ride, and he spooked and he jumped and he went right and I went left, and I fell and I broke my arm pretty severely. A week in the hospital, surgery. I've got nice metal. Got a nice scar on my arm right there from my horse. And I knew that that horse wasn't the best horse for me to be riding. Duh, right? So I wanted a new horse. I made a list about 9 months ago. I wrote down everything that I wanted in a horse. I needed this horse to be safe. I needed it to be well trained. I needed it to respect me. I needed it to be calm and gentle. So an older horse and I had to be a mare. I wasn't going to deal with any geldings anymore. And I made a list of my top six requirements that I had to have in this horse and at a price that I could afford. So I wrote this list down and just set it aside. Didn't think much about it. In fact, thought it would be quite a while, years before I would find this horse. And then fast forward, one of my one of my students that I trained to ride, she came to me and she was always looking at horses. Jenny Lynn, I think I found your horse. And I had given her my list. So she went to work and she found this horse for me. And last week I went and bought this horse. And they almost gave me this horse. It was definitely a price I could afford. And this horse was a European jumping horse. And then they retired her because she turned into a brood mare, like 17 years old, very well trained, calm, gentle, has been a mama horse. This horse just loves me. When I walked into the field, first time I'm meeting this horse, and the horse comes and just puts its head on my shoulder. Oh, my heart melted. I went, oh, this is my horse. And then her name is Sorsha. Sorsha is very Irish. And I'm Irish. What's better than that? Thought, oh, there's another sign. She's my horse. How did that come about? I created a picture. I made a word picture. Said, this is what I want in a horse. This is what I require in a horse. And then I just put it aside. And now I have this beautiful, beautiful horse. and that I can ride and is safe for me. It's amazing. The power of vision boards is real. We get what we picture. We get what we picture. And our brain uses these mirror neurons. And when you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, I love you. I love and accept you for who you are, where you are. That is where we have to start with everything, is we have to love and accept ourselves. And how do we do that? Look yourself in the mirror. Look deep into your eyes and tell yourself, I love you. You've been through a lot of crap and still standing to tell the story. And I love you for it. And I love and accept every part of you, even the bad parts, the good parts, because you see, every experience of our lives has been and is for our highest and greatest learning and growth. And the lesson is repeated until the lesson is learned. Learn the lesson, and the lesson changes. And now you get to move on to a new lesson, and you get to store the learning. Everybody goes through crap in their lives. It we can't, that's what life is about. And we learn and we grow. Now some people get more crap than others, but I do believe that we are tested at to our max capacity. So where is your max capacity? You also get to decide that. I used to think that my max capacity, I was so strong I could take on anything. And guess what? That's what happened in my life. I got to take on a whole lot of garbage and crap and hard things. And then I realized, oh my gosh, life doesn't have to be so hard. And I changed my thoughts and decided, Jenny Lynn, you deserve to be happy. And you deserve life can be done with grace and ease. How's that? Changed my thinking, changed my word picture, changed to I deserve a life of grace and ease. And guess what? My life just gets easier and easier every day, and I have more joy, more happiness, and I want the very same for you. And how does it start? Where does it start? If you're feeling like you're mirrored in the muck and you're stuck, start changing your word picture. The words, how you speak to yourself, how you speak about yourself. You get to be your own best friend. You get to love and accept yourself and look in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you. You're amazing. You're incredible. And you're doing hard things. And you've done many hard things. And you can do more hard things. And you can do it with grace and ease and polished. And you deserve to have joy in your life. Joy is an interesting word because joy doesn't just mean you singing all the time. That's not what it means. Joy means that you go through the pain, you go through those hard things, and you come out on the other side with learning, with understanding, with wisdom. You, my friends, can be there, and you can experience joy and happiness. You can't feel joy if you haven't experienced pain. The deeper the pain, the greater the joy that you can lift, and then you can lift others, and then you can support, and you can push, and you can lift, and you can experience joy. Life is about joy. That's what we're here for. Man is that they may have joy. That's a biblical quote from the Bible. I want you to experience joy in your life. I want you to get what you picture. I want you to be happy, to experience the happiness and the joy that I feel. I want you to imagine your life and then create your life because you deserve to live the life you love and love the life you live. And you can, and it can be done with grace and ease. Now, thank you for joining me today. Remember, you get what you picture. I'm going to leave you with my favorite tip of the day. Tonight, as every night, as you go to sleep and your fingers touch your pillow and you prepare for sleep, repeat in your mind the phrase, every day in every way, I get better and better, repeated 10 times, one for each finger as your fingers touch your mattress and you prepare for sleep. Every day in every way, I get better and better. Repeated 10 times, one for each finger as your fingers touch the mattress and you prepare for sleep. In this way, you hypnotize yourself as you sleep and you get to change your programming while you sleep. Compound that over time. It equals many great days, many good weeks, many great months, years, and an amazing, incredible life. Welcome to the first day of the rest of your life.